Protestant Reformation. When Martin Luther nailed his 95 Theses in Wittenberg in 1517, he did not intend to challenge the doctrine of the Trinity. His target was indulgences, papal corruption, salvation by works. The Reformers, Luther, Calvin, Zwingli, were convinced Trinitarians. But the Reformation opened a Pandora's box. If Catholic tradition could be wrong about indulgences, why not about other things? If every believer could read the Bible for himself, without the mediation of the Pope, what would prevent someone from reaching different conclusions about the nature of God? Centralized authority had collapsed, and in the cracks of that collapse, ancient ideas began to sprout again. It was in this context that Michael Servetus was born. Villanueva de Sigena, Aragon, 1511. A Spanish village in the foothills of the Pyrenees. His father was a notary, a man of some standing, educated, connected. The boy Michael showed early brilliance. At 14, he became secretary to Juan de Quintana, confessor to Emperor Charles V. Imagine what that meant. A brilliant, ambitious Spanish teenager with access to the highest political and religious circles in Europe, traveling with the imperial court, watching popes and princes up close. In 1530, Servetus accompanied Quintana to the coronation of Charles V in Bologna, where Pope Clement VII placed the imperial crown on the head of the most powerful monarch in Christendom. What Servetus saw there marked him forever. The pomp, the gold, the luxurious vestments, the Pope treated like a semi-divine figure on earth, the emperor kneeling before a man who claimed to be the vicar of Christ. For a young man reading the Bible and seeing fishermen and carpenters there, the spectacle was obscene. Where was the simplicity of the gospel? Where was the Jesus who washed the disciples' feet? Servetus abandoned his patron, abandoned the ecclesiastical career opening before him, and left in search of answers. He went to Basel and met with Œcolampadius, the local reformer, then to Strasbourg, where he met Bucer and Capito, the great names of the Reformation, men who had challenged Rome and survived. Servetus spoke with them, debated, questioned, and left disappointed. The Reformers had broken with the Pope, but not with the Trinity. They had rejected indulgences, but not the Nicene Creed. To Servetus, that was incoherent. If the problem was the Church's corruption by concepts from Greek philosophy, why preserve the Trinitarian dogma, a formulation loaded with Greek terms like hypostasis, ousia, homoousios? Where, Servetus asked, does the Bible use the word Trinity? Where does it speak of three divine persons? Where does it mention essence or substance? Nowhere. And if the Bible did not use those terms, why did the Church impose them as absolute dog? Servetus argued that Trinitarian doctrine was not biblical, but an invention of later theologians influenced by Greek philosophy. Jesus Christ, he said, was indeed divine, but not as an eternal second person of a Trinity. The Logos, the Word of God, was eternal. But the Son, the human divine person of Jesus, began to exist in the Incarnation, when the Spirit came upon Mary. The Son of the eternal God, not the eternal Son of God. It was a subtle distinction, but it carried enormous implications. If the Son came into existence only in the Incarnation, then there were not three co-eternal persons. There was God, the eternal Father, manifesting himself in different ways throughout history. First, as the creative Word, then as the incarnate Son, then as the Spirit in the Church. It sounded terrifyingly familiar. It sounded like Sibelius. The reaction was immediate and universal. Catholics condemned the book. Protestants condemned the book. Luther, Melanchthon, Bucer, Œcolampadius, all rejected Servetus in horror. For the first time, the two halves of Western Christianity agreed on something. This Spaniard was a dangerous heretic. Servetus realized he had gone too far. He published a second work, Dialogues on the Trinity, trying to soften some positions. It did not help. The damage was done. His theological career was finished. His life was in danger. And then Michael Servetus did something surprising. He disappeared. For nearly 20 years, the most wanted heretic in Europe, hid in plain sight. He changed his name, became Michel de Villeneuve, Michael of Villanueva, in honor of his hometown. He studied medicine in Paris, became a physician, and not just any physician. He was among the first Europeans to describe the pulmonary circulation of the blood, a discovery that anticipated William Harvey's work by decades. He settled in Vienne, France, became the personal physician to the local archbishop, attended Mass. Outwardly, he was a respectable Catholic. But in secret, Servetus never abandoned his convictions. He kept writing, kept developing his ideas, and he kept corresponding with someone who would become his executioner, John Calvin. The correspondence